Khiron Life Sciences Corp is a Latin American-based pharmaceutical company that develops and commercializes medical cannabis products. Khiron has core operations in Colombia and is fully licensed in the country for the cultivation, production, domestic distribution, and international export of both THC and CBD medical cannabis. In May 2018, Khiron listed on the TSX Venture, becoming one of the first Colombian-based medical cannabis companies to trade on any exchange globally. Khiron Life Sciences Corp is listed on the TSX Venture under the ticker symbol KHRN.
Alvaro Torres, CEO of Khiron Life Sciences, joins me again. Alvaro, welcome back.
Hi, Jim. How are you?
Great, thanks. Alvaro, let's start with an overview. What's happening in DOMA, where you're growing, and what's happening with your laboratory operations?
Well, we finished everything already. We finished the project, the construction of the lab. We already are growing commercially. I'm just waiting for the government to give us the authorization to start selling. But it's been a year and a half of building and the construction, a very high quality lab. So we're very happy that it's finally over. But now we're looking to second phase to build new greenhouses,
right,
and to expand our capacity for energy. So we're building solar projects in our plants so that we can reduce the cost of energy, and we're just expanding that. But we're very happy that the lab is finally finished. We are, right now extracting and analyzing and just getting ready to start selling Colombia.
Sure. I noticed that the lab is extremely large. It looks more like a commercial formulation facility of a cosmetic plant than it does a laboratory. And is that sort of what it's been built to do, is to create commercial capacity of products?
Well, the lab is very big because it's GMP design. So we have microbiological analysis labs, and we have physical chemical analysis labs, and also extraction capacity. But what we're going to be producing there is just raw extract. We take that to a third-party lab in Bogota on our own, and we'll produce the final products in Bogota. But what we get out of DOMA is just, let's say, our basic raw extract. It's so big because we have also analysis labs, which are very important here because you need to analyze everything from the soil all the way to the final product. And that's a daily, day-to-day type of activity. It's a beautiful lab. You have to go and see it.
Yeah, I will be. I'll be there soon to see it again.
Yes.
I'll be there again to see it again soon, I should say.
Yes.
Okay, so now the Colombian government has instituted a quota system for THC production. Tell me about that and how that's going to affect Khiron's business going forward.
Well, the quota system is not just Colombia, it's the United Nations. It's an authority called the HIFE. HIFE gives every country a quota for THC production. So Colombia has this year 1.5 tons of quota, which has not yet been asked by any company so far. And what we're doing, everybody is applying to a quota so that you can be allowed to grow THC. So all those authorizations are going to start happening at the end of this quarter. And the reason the government wants to do this because, I guess they don't want to really be growing more cannabis than what we're already known for, and make it very legal. So the quota system makes it a little bit more complex for companies who don't really have a demand, because to be able to get the quota, you need to show the government that you have demand for it. So if you're exporting THC, you need to show the government that you have not only a contract with a third party outside Colombia, but you also have to show that that other country allows for import of THC, which you can imagine right now, how many countries have those type of permits, very limited. And for domestic production, you need to show the government that you have the demand in country, which is one of the reasons why we acquired IILANS. So that we have 120,000 patients in our clinic. We can talk about at least 10,000 patients that we can start with next year. And then you prove to the government that these patients have the conditions and how much cannabis they use, and that's how you apply for a quota system in Colombia. And you do that every 3 months, every 6 months, every time you can update your demand. And that's what is becoming now the most challenging part for other companies. Before, a year ago, it was all about licenses. So who could get a license? And everybody was excited about getting licenses. And there's, I think, 500 licenses in Colombia. And then that became very easy to do. Now it's all about cultivars and your registration of strains. So the number of companies that have that is decreasing. I would say there's probably 10 or 12 And from then on, if you want to do THC, you have to ask for quotas.
Sure. So is the quota system that's imparted by the United Nations, is that legally binding on Colombian companies?
It's more of a guideline.
I see.
But for countries like Colombia, who actually take money away from the United Nations,
Right.
it matters a lot.
Okay.
Countries like Canada, Germany, who actually give money to the United Nations, it's really not that important.
Right.
That's, for example, Canada today has no quotas for THC,
Right.
but Canada doesn't care,
Right.
or Germany doesn't care.
Sure. Sure. Okay. So tell me, at this point, how many registered patients are there for medical cannabis in Colombia?
Well, we have our own system because we have a clinic that has 120,000 patients with neurological conditions. So we know how many patients we can start giving.
So you have
to.
120,000 patients?
No, we have 120,000 patients with conditions like
Right.
chronic pain, neurology.
Okay. And so there's a
epilepsy.
process to convert them into clients directly
Right.
for the product.
You have to do a lot of education, which is what we're doing for the doctors in our clinics and the doctors outside the clinics, and you have to start looking at which are the patients that would be more suitable to begin the process. You have to start these things slow, right? Because it sounds amazing to have 120,000 patients, but remember that we are taking care of the quality of life. So we need to be very careful about who's going to start the program. I can tell you there's a lot of excitement, not only in the clinics, but outside, because basically, I would say the top 5, 6 companies, we've already gone through a lot of the process of cultivation, building, all of that is done. So we're just waiting now for the government to give the go-ahead to start selling, and they will start selling. And in our case, we've been preparing our patients and our doctors for a year and a half. And we acquired IILANS in December of last year. So we've
Right.
been working 9 months to get all this program going. And once it gets going, well, just a matter of fact, making sure that you can ethically decide which patients can be part of the program. And once that happens, we'll start. And that's
Okay.
just in Colombia, right?
Right.
We're trying to figure this out in Mexico and Peru and the rest of the Latin American countries.
Sure. The financial performance of cannabis companies as reported in their quarterly and annual financials in the last, call it 3 weeks, 4 weeks, has been characterized uniformly by absolute disappointment. And everybody seems to be having a hard time making money. Even the government of Ontario, who generated $68 million in sales, did so with $106 million in expenses, thereby losing $42 million bucks, and they don't even have to grow cannabis.
Wow.
So is the outlook for Khiron going to be different from what's happening in North America?
Well, we've always been very conservative the way that we approach the market. And we all have to understand that this is a difficult market to begin. But we've been doing this for only a year and a half. And we're already generating $5 million in sales for the first half of the year with the clinics and with Quota. It's an education process. But I'm really not that concerned because the way we look at and approach our business, we're very conscious of our SG&A. We have a great team, but it's also based out of Colombia, which makes also very much cheaper than if we were setting up the company here in Canada.
Sure.
We're ready to start looking at the products. We're already starting to see how we can export Quota into the United States. Hopefully all of that will be done this year. Start patient prescription and so on. But so far, if you look at our overall results, they're being in line with what the analysts expect us to be doing. And we have 3 analyst coverage. What's going to happen after the second half of the year? Well, everybody's expecting results, right? And nobody's more interested in that than me.
Right.
But I'm very optimistic about what we're doing because of the clinics and the performance that we're having, and the fact that we're looking to Quota into expanding Quota worldwide into Europe and the United States,
Sure.
Which would be fantastic. But also, we have a very good financial position. We have $55 million in cash since June 30. That gives us a lot of time and patience to be able to build our business correctly. And we're doing a lot of investments that are just going to drive that value. But
Sure. And how is the expansion going into other Latin American countries? For example, I noticed that you're licensed to sell products in Peru, for example. Do you have products on the shelves in Peru? And is Peru a market that you expect to develop quickly?
Well, Peru just launched regulations and they approved by law medical cannabis. So what we're doing right now in the moment is looking at the same model in Colombia. Where do we find clinics? How do we build demand? And just be ready for when the government of Peru says, I'm open. one thing that we don't have to worry so much right now is that we already have our product. And we're already having the extract, and we're already doing cultivation. So it's just a matter of time until the government opens it up, hopefully by the fourth quarter of this year. That's what they've said. In the meantime, we started the construction of our Uruguay facility, which I don't know if you've seen some photos of it. It's a very nice facility, very different from Colombia because of the weather conditions. But I'm very excited about that because it's going to be our entryway into Brazil, which is not yet fully regulated, but there's a market there right now for compassionate basis. And when you have products coming from the United States, 30 milliliter bottles selling for $350, and you can produce that for $150 with 80% gross margins, that gets very exciting.
Sure.
So we're looking forward in Uruguay a lot.
Right. Okay, so sounds like you're just, executing on the business plan, paso a paso, as they say, step by step, and it sounds like it's really coming together, Alvaro. So we'll keep watching. We're going to have our crew down there in September.
That would be nice.
And we'll keep the story going. Thanks for joining me again today.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.